time live here from Davis Island in Tampa. So if you haven't Googled that, it's where the houses start at like $2 million. So I don't live here, but I am happy to say that they have a great little corner where I can do keto in the wild. We are in the series Keto in the Wild, which is respecting that we are all in a season of temptation. The summer weeks before school starts, our schedules are changing and the rules are hard to keep. The rhythm can be a little off balance. I think it's a lot like the holidays. And in the Keto in the Wild, I am trying to take the intensity down a little bit and instead of giving you a lecture, tell you some things that I've learned over the years and I'm happy to do again. In 20 plus years of seeing patients, I have noticed that there is a group of people that they break the cycle. And this is actually the third time in my career where I sat down and said, all right, what's the difference? Who are the people who break the cycle, who do not end up repeating those behavior patterns again and again? And I'm happy to say that several of the ones that made the list before in my practice are again on the list this time. And we started out, this is week 5. The first week we said, yep, when they get tired, they rest, but they don't give up. In the second week, we talked about how they love data. And if you love data, you're gonna fit right in on this channel. The third one is they know their triggers. I actually like that one the best so far because it was just really raw and I got to share some things that I think really make a difference. The next one was that the short-term goals lead to the long-term goals, which means they never arrive. They have a kind of habit stacking built into how they think. And today we are going to get naked. We are going to talk about why the ones who really break the cycle get naked. Before we do that, I do have some announcements and I'm going to do my check of sugars. So I have a little crab that was on my keto mojo here, but I have been fasting since Sunday. We had a very eventful week in that I was in keto. I was at the Keto Summit in Orlando, where I got to meet many of you. Thank you for coming out and supporting not only the gals who put that on, but just the keto community. That sometimes I forget how much this stuff makes a difference to people. And it was just really nice to have some real live stories of people coming up saying, here's what this has made a difference in my life. And I appreciate that a lot. But I could feel that my sugar of 52, I don't know if you can see that in the reflection, and ketones of, it's still counting down. Ketones of, it's got an error. Let me do it one more time. I bet you it was the crab who was on my thing. I have no idea what did that. The blood sugar is 52. We'll get your ketones here in just a second. So as I was leading the 4 interns, they ran the booth this weekend where we checked ketones before and after a supplement, and we gave away ketones of 2.8. And the glucose was 52, and I can feel it. I definitely am in a phase of my fast right now. The winner of our Dexcom 7 was our very own Deb Sager, who's one of the coaches and had come down from New York and just one of my favorite people in the world. Again, doing keto for reasons that have nothing to do with weight loss. But a couple of things. The announcements that I have for tonight, I'm going to give 2 of them now and 1 in a minute. The first one is my friend Autumn from Louisville. Apparently I say it wrong, and if you relax your cheeks, then it's better. So she is hosting Keto Palooza October 6th, and I'm honored to be one of her speakers. It would be really helpful for me if you go to bozmd.com, click on the Dr. Boz favorites, and you link to her account through that link. I don't get commission. I donate all the proceeds she wanted to give me for an honorarium back to her organization. What I want her to see is that I'm trying to support her. I love what she's doing. I love her authenticity, and she's just an example of how the genuine people who get naked, we'll talk more about that later, win. The other announcement on there is that my other friend, Mindy Peltz, you might know her as Dr. Mindy, she has her program going on that starts tomorrow. And the free version you can sign up through on that link as well. So Dr. Boz Favorites, click on Fast Like a Girl, or that's what Mindy Peltz's program is, and Keto-Palooza is what my friend Autumn is doing for in Louisville in October. All right, so we are in the series Keto in the Wild, and I'm Dr. Bosworth, 20 plus years of seeing patients as an internal medicine physician, and we are talking about these cycle breakers. As we look at cycle breaker number 5, it is about getting naked. We talked about this morning in my support group. For those of you that are looking for a support group and you're in the Tampa area, the Pin Chasers here on North Armenia is where I lead a support group for free every Tuesday, and you are welcome to come at 8 o'clock in the morning. It gets over at about 9:15, and it's free. And today we talked about getting naked. So the fifth, I'm gonna put this in my drink and drink some of this while we talk. Not that I need to raise my ketones, but I just think it's my job to show you that I drink these products too, and they should change your numbers. All right, so that getting naked means they know their real why. So I've done this process of asking patients what motivates them for 20 years with, hundreds, probably thousands of patients. And over the years, you can smell the truth. You can smell when they're being honest. You can sense it. I'll get naked later on in the program here with my truth, but I really find that the people who break the cycle, they get naked. When I ask them why, I don't start with that question, and I'm not going to cheapen the process by delaying or trying to explain how I do this when I'm with a patient. I did outline the steps in the workbook that I use, and whenever you're with an online course with me, I really do follow those steps. And for any of the people who I have watched me take care of patients online or take care of people online, you'll know that I push them in this moment. And today when I ask people in the support group, before you can ask a question, you need to check in with your why. And there was somebody who tried to check in while keeping their clothes on. They didn't get naked. They had a very superficial why. And it is so common, it is so easy. But when I look at somebody's why, when I can smell that they're not telling the truth, it's not because they're lying to me. It's not because they're trying to be deceptive. It's because that moment of honesty is not it's not an easy moment. And it's very easy to fake it. It's very easy to lie and say, you know what, I'm on the ketogenic diet because I want to get skinny, or I want my family to be proud of how, to not, talk down to me because I'm overweight. And we had somebody check in with that today, and it reminded me when I learned about what she was doing. So she was saying the superficial reason why I am keto, and then she said it, and then she quickly went on to her question. And I answered her question, and then I made her go back to her why, saying, now wait a minute, let's talk for real, because she's actually been coming to group. I love her, she's great, and she is a time of success. And she had said, yes, I'm down 25 pounds, and I'm going out again, I am leaving my house, I'm being social again. And I am reminded of when I learned this lesson in my own life, because I was struggling. I was struggling just like she's going to struggle. Actually, I was struggling just like she has been struggling. That when she came in to group the first few times, she was on a quick bandwagon to get things better. And it's actually been when she's been more truth-telling that she's been able to lose this 25 pounds. And she said, yeah, the reason I'm keto is Nobody in my family's ever had trouble with obesity, and I don't like being around my family, or I don't even like leaving my house when I'm overweight. And now that I'm losing weight, I feel more confident and I can go back out into the real world. And although that's a very good beginning, it's superficial. And I'm not a big poetry reader, but when I was struggling with this deception of the imposters of compliments and criticisms, I was working with a friend of mine, and they said, go read this poem by Kipling called If. And the poem is it's a story, or it's a pledge that says, if you do these things, you will become a man, a real man. And of course, it's meant for men and women. It's a metaphor to say it's a maturity that if you can do these things, this is a sign of freedom. This is a sign that you're telling yourself the truth, that you're living in an authentic way, and it's freedom. And as I read the poem, I struggled a lot with it because it is, in a tongue that's not, it was written like in 1900 or something like that, like 1910, or I think Kipling died in 1930 something. So it was written before that, and it's one of his most famous poems that says, boy, in 1900, these things were still true. And the stanza that I had the most difficult with was that when you meet triumph and disaster, and you can treat the two imposters the same, if you can do that, you're a man. And I think of this woman who says, you know what, my family doesn't like it when I'm overweight, and when I'm around them, I want to hide and not be near them. But when I lose the weight, they compliment me and they shower me with these praises. And what that poem gets to is that if you have such joy from your triumphs, be careful, because that, by definition, you will have an equal and opposite emotional reaction when disaster hits. And the same goes for these compliments and criticisms. Think them as triumphs and disasters. And obviously they're on different scales, but the mental exercise is the same. But if your reason for being on keto was these superficial reasons, which this person has actually done a lot of work with, and she's doing a lot better, but instantly when she had to say her why out loud, it was this very superficial why. And it's only by pulling back the layers and saying, if you look at why your family, really hounds on you not being overweight, and how they say nobody's ever been overweight in our family, and it's not our tradition to be overweight, and almost like shames her, which is a family trait. We all do that to our family members, that being overweight is going to be such a disaster. When she loses the weight and she gets the praise is just as superficial. And it is in that balance of unpacking, well, why do you think you feel that way? Can you pull back those layers? And this is what I mean by getting naked, that it is so easy for people to lie about why they're keto. And you don't have to tell the whole world. I know better than to ask people or even myself, to say, I don't tell everybody my, outside of my circle of trust, what's deep in my heart. It's a very vulnerable place. I am going to try to tell you at the end of this video, and I practiced this morning in group and it didn't go so well, so let's see if I can do it better. But there was one more check-in today that was also another example of a person that wouldn't get naked. And she's a grandmother. She's one of my favorites. She's been coming for a while, and she contributes. She's been the leader within her family. She's the healthiest in her family, and I think she's in her 70s. And she said, you know what, I was doing great until my granddaughter was hospitalized for an eating disorder. And she got down into 75 or 80 pounds, and she's young, she's 14. And she goes, now we are all, praying for her and really working with her, but I can't fast around her. I can't even talk about fasting. I can't look at fats or put too many, we just aren't going to talk about diets. We don't do that. And as a result, not only is the stress really weighing on her, as it should with any grandparent, but she isn't able to follow the routine that she needs at the age of 76 to be the best version of her. And this grandma is great. She is the healthiest of the 4 grandparents and really livelihood. And that granddaughter, who, as you might expect, maybe you don't expect this. In my experience of having any type of eating disorder, that it stems from an area where they've had a hurt, a neglect, a hang-up, a habit. I mean, it's a time where their emotions broke, where their support system broke, and there has been a lot of turmoil in her granddaughter's family. But one of the stable places is Grandma, and Grandma's fun and healthy, and this granddaughter needs a beacon to come to follow. And I did her check-in that her reason for keto is her grandchildren and being this grandmother, but that she's in this weird place because she can't talk about being keto. And I really said, I disagree with you. I think that it is a disservice to your granddaughter to be hiding it, to be altering what your best health is in the name of her, and then keeping more secrets, like, sneaking fat into her food or whatever they might be doing to try and, she's in the hospital, so they're not doing that, but, not talking about keto and not being able to do the grandmother's fasting is really disservice to her grandchildren. Specifically this one is looking for an example. And that grandmother is doing keto because she wants her brain to be great. She's had a few setbacks, she's had a cancer, and her health is so amazing. And she does the real thing. She's fallen off the wagon, she's gone on a cruise, she's put on the weight, she's taken it off, and she knows by coming to group and checking in and being part of that, she's been able to, stay the course. And I gave her the example that a better why is to point out to your granddaughter that you do this ketogenic diet because of your brain, because of you want to be mentally sharp and to be the kind of grandmother with a positive attitude and the energy to be in her life and not fall off the wagon. But it gets back to the thumbnail, which is, yeah, she needs to get naked and get honest about that as an example to her granddaughter, not hang out in the secrets of don't talk about it and don't put that on there. And of course, what they're worried about is, well, I don't want her to lose weight. I'm like, yeah, you don't want her to lose weight, but you do want the best brain for this granddaughter. Her journey forward, the best part of her story is she's only 14. That this is changeable. She has a brain that's growing so fast. And if you can grow it, if you can mature her brain in a ketogenic state, you win. It will repair what that malnourishment has likely done to her from the anorexia and from being that very low malnourished weight in a state that you want her to see what the life of a ketogenic journey could be. And that grandmother is the best example. So before I get naked, I have an announcement that I really need you to pay attention to because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we had a wave of new people come onto our channel and be discovered by us over the last 4 months. And it's awesome, but we are talking to 2 audiences now, which one is a seasoned amount of people that are keto and one, well, they're new and they're asking some of the questions where I want to help you. I want to correct a couple things that you're talking about. And in this next month, I'm going to explain that, but if you're not reading the emails, you might get confused. So if you have unsubscribed from our email list, you need to dial in and go to bozmd.com and sign up for the email list. I'm not being, I'm not doing this marketing trick. I'm saying you're going to be confused if you don't read some of these things. And I don't want that. I want you to be satisfied. I don't want you writing angry emails and saying, I thought this was meant for me. Because this season, if you've been around the Dr. Boz channel, you know there's 2 major times in our brand, in our company. And that is when I lead a live program for 3 weeks and the people who are in the class get to sit in front of me in a virtual exam room, if you would, and I lead them through the ketogenic diet. That we only open that up for 250 people, and I'm a little nervous how short that window is going to be open when we get to that in September. So the people who get to sign up for it will get the email, and it will open the door for those people who sign up first. And my monitor's going off, and it's ringing when I don't want it to. So we will be sending out an email that you can sign up for that. If you're seasoned, you have to be on that list. And if you've unsubscribed in the last 6 months or 8 months or whatever, you got to sign up again, or you won't get the email to say the cart is open if you want to be part of the list. I think it's going to be a short sales cycle. Maybe not, but I'm worried about that. But it's the newbies that really need to pay attention for the next few weeks, because I'm giving away a free seminar before the 21-day. You guys are asking really great questions that I have covered in the past, and a lot of you are dancing around YouTube to try and find the answers. And I said, let's do a free seminar. It will be 3 parts that really summarize what I think you should know in the first stages of why are you here? Why did you get sick? And I found this to be super helpful for people when they are, well, not only just going keto, but when they're trying to understand how we take the ketogenic diet to a much higher level. I treat patients with cancer disorders. I treat seizure disorders. I talk about how supplements are used in the right place and the wrong place at different times. And I like to show you that the closest version of that you're going to get is to be part of this intense group. But you might not want to do that if you're new, and I don't want you to end up in the wrong group or missing the email. So please sign up for the emails. You can unsubscribe in a couple months, but we think they're pretty valuable, and we are trying to connect you with what we're doing as a brand. So let us try. All right, so the getting naked for me, it is my why. And I have talked about this in the past, but I point out that when you are talking about your why, if it doesn't evoke emotion, you're faking it. You're not getting naked. And I didn't start the ketogenic diet because I needed to lose weight. I did need to lose weight, but I didn't think that. I didn't start it because I was metabolically sick, because I didn't think that was me. I did it because of my mother. And the first book that I wrote, many of you know, I lost a bet with my husband and wrote that book. And because he was watching this play out, that my 71-year-old mother, who had been my favorite patient, was suffering from metabolic issues and had the ultimate of metabolic problems, cancer. When her cancer was giving her 6 months or less to live, I had discovered the ketogenic diet, and my mother was refusing treatment, for which she should have. But looking back, I couldn't see that. I couldn't say that. And that ketogenic diet was amazing. It was such a learning curve for me, and it was a place where I was very motivated to stay the course. But if you've listened to the book or you've read the book, you'll know that after that fun wave, just like this gal I'm talking about, we kind of said, we did good enough, right? And we fell right off. And, you know, we did that thing where you kind of get a little bit of carbs in, and then you give yourself more forgiveness, and then you're just not keto. And my mom's cancer wouldn't allow that. So as she journeyed through that book, it is a gift from God that I wrote down enough to be able to write the book, and that I thought 12 people would buy it, and over 250,000 people have read it. Thank you for purchasing it. Thank you for giving it to your doctors. It is how this channel got started, and I contend it's still the best content out there because it is, well, it's a love story between a mother and a daughter. And I was pretty snarky at the beginning of it. Maybe because I really didn't want to write a book, and I was trying to just say, here's what I thought was going to happen. And then my mother died. And she died in a way that still hurts me to say out loud. She's one of the COVID deaths that, I mean, the moment that she died, we were there, but she didn't know it. And she really died alone before that. She was intubated alone. She didn't have the people who, her internal medicine daughter could not go to her bedside and watch over her and make sure that she had compression boots on so she wouldn't get a blood. And her death is still a really painful place for me to go. So after she died, I kept telling myself I was on the ketogenic diet because of my mother. Keto, well, I did just what this lady in group was doing, and I gave a fake answer. My mother can't be my reasoning in the way that I was thinking about it. And one of my lady friends in Bible studies said, I was grieving, I was mad, and I was reaching for the kinds of comfort that I think I reached for many years, which is food. And I had somebody tell me that the way they got over their grieving was they wrote down the women in their life that reminded them of their mother and said, you know, I stitched together these women, and in life they have become my mother. And it's the friendship that I've had for 20 years with my friend Hope. And it's the forgiveness that is way beyond what I can do from my friend Elaine. It is that the counselor that runs one of my Bible studies from South Dakota, and how generous she is. And then there's some people that are just a little bitchy. Because I like that part about my mom too, when she would just get mad and then she would just need to tell somebody, and then when she was done, she was back to normal. And I just think, oh, that is so honest. And in that stitching together of the quilt of women that have become my mom, I also had to change my why of why I do keto. Because I couldn't stay on it. I kept falling off. I would do good for a while, and then I wouldn't, and then I would do good for a while, and then I wouldn't. And it was about a year ago when I was preparing, and I told my team in very short order, I need to do this 21-day course because it is a place where I get to be as close to a doctor as you can be online in a class like that. But it is also, it's a moment of service where I get to give to the people who are watching who are in my class or watching this show, and I pretend they're my mom. I say, if it was my mother, what would I tell her? And it's through that place where her story stays alive. And it is not the same as my mother being alive, but it's as close as I get this side of heaven. And my people say, why do you do this? Because it's a lot of work, and I don't know if you've ever seen the metrics of a YouTube channel, but they are not that great. That the biggest way this company stays alive is our 21-day course, and it really carries us the rest of the year if we're successful. But it also allows me to give in a way that I feel so connected to my mom. I treat each one of the patients. I do 10 cases. There are 250 people, but I try to use cases that will teach the masses. And I pray about them, and I study them, and I imagine that they were my mother asking me the question, and it helps me. Not gonna lie, 21-day course is also where I work on things for me, and I'm looking forward to handling a couple things that have fallen a little away. And so is my team. Every one of my coaches says they get better as they coach people for those 21 days. And obviously the people in the room are in a vortex of people just working on the next level for their health. So my why has become that when I do keto and I get to teach people by being their example and answering their questions, it's the closest to my mother's legacy that I get to participate in. And the why has changed. It's taken me over a year to really land on that and honestly step around it and say, it feels so good that I hope I keep getting to do the YouTube channel. I hope I have enough success that I get to stay on this platform. And if you're lucky enough to be in the 21-day course this year, you'll get to do a very naked why with me. Well, I am going to check my numbers at the end of the show. I have failed to do that the last 2 days. But I am going to look at your questions here. I have Harmon 442, and my team has pinned that. So the question is, written by Harmon442. Dr. Boz, how important is fiber? 2 months of carnivore and I'm eating 0 fiber. No problems yet. Yeah, they actually had a lecture on this over the weekend at the Keto Summit. And I've given the lecture, but I always love to hear how other people answer that question because, yeah, fiber is a carbohydrate. And although it doesn't get absorbed, there is plenty of stimulus of your insulin when the fiber comes in. So I don't encourage people to have fiber. I know better than to have a ketogenic state especially in a long-term insulin-resistant patient. They will not have success if fiber is something they reach for every day. But the person who gave who answered this question live was actually Maria Emmerich, and I have not been able to sit into her lectures the last couple times we've been together. But she said, yeah, a baby, I mean, when they don't eat fiber, their poo doesn't stink. And do they have gas and do they really rumble when they're on a breastfed diet? The answer is no, they don't. I find that a really good answer, actually, to just teach. There's more to how our bowels work than what I told patients for many years, which was a ketogenic diet should be low on fiber. A carnivore diet low on fiber, it isn't great the first couple of months, but I mean, especially if you've really struggled with bowel problems, but they love me by about week 6. There is a full chapter that I put inside my last book, KetoCONTINUUM. That question is so common that I wrote about it in much more detail there. And if you want to geek out a little bit, that second book is about a patient who walked through the ketogenic diet with me by just support groups, never being my patient, just being in support with me. All right, so the next one is by Nathel V, and it says, can fasting and keto help irritable bowel syndrome? If yes, what would you be the best fasting length and targeted Dr. Boz ratio? Keep saving lives. Thanks for the praise. I appreciate that. I am going to sit just a little bit over so that the sun gets in it's just nicer to have the sun here. So I'm going to do here because I'm in the shade. There we go. And it is just enough. There we go. So that ketogenic diet for irritable bowel syndrome has it's the most powerful way that I've seen people reverse their inflammatory bowel problems. The first phase of irritable bowel has a removal of the slime layer. The slime layer isn't thick and dense. It doesn't protect their bowel, and it's been eroded because of the high inflammatory state of their body. So think of the insulin is high, and the inflammatory rates are high, and that makes for a really delicate, rather moth-eaten slime layer in their gut. As they're keto, it gets better and better. And fasting is one of the ways that I see the most remarkable improvements in, IBS, Crohn's disease, inflammatory bowel disease, which are all they have different causes, but if you're looking at the grade of what level of bowel disease do you have, it is usually on a gradation. In that chapter, which is a lot of it goes through what happens in their bowels as things go wrong. And the fastest way out is to put fasting into your schedule. I do not recommend that until you are solidly keto adapted. I use the plan of a keto continuum where they start out at a certain thing, and as soon as they do well at that, then we go to the next one, then they go to the next one. And I've had a lot of the newbies just jump all the way to fasting, and then they crash. In fact, this gal that checked in when she first showed up to support group, she was already fasting, and I'm like, wait, slow down, go back to a couple other chapters. And it's through mastering those other couple of chapters that she's really been able to address the food issues that were always sabotaging her. She has to deal with those in order to get the success she's been getting recently. So to say, well, what length of fasting would I recommend? I know that the best reversal of those bowel problems have happened when they achieved the ultimate, the 12th step in the keto continuum, which was 8 consecutive weeks of 72-hour fasting. And I cover that and why that matters, why that's, you know, really supercharging their norepinephrine and supercharging their growth hormone. It's out there. I'm very adamant about saying that is where the ultimate tool shed is. You know, the shed in the tool in the shed is used, and a ketogenic diet is a baby step. 72-hour fasting for 8 consecutive weeks in a row. That's an award that should be you should be very proud of, because now you have a sustainable way to continue to reverse those bowel problems. But if you jump to 72-hour fasting without mastering a 36-hour fast for at least 3 times in a row, and then a 48-hour fast for at least 3 times in a row, and I would never fast more than once a week, not because there's some medical reason to it, but because I want you to journey with time on your side as you push the boundaries in your social life. What does it look like when you don't eat? And people fall off when they just rush into it, and then they crash and burn and say, dang, that ketogenic diet isn't for me. And that's not true. It's that you have to have a skill set behind you. But I push you to say, here's the fasting that'll reverse your bowel disorder. My prescription won't work if your social life falls apart after the 2nd week. So it's because of that if you go to the keto continuum, it steps you through. Accomplish this before you go to the next one. Accomplish this before you go to the next one. And I find that their eating window when they're doing the 72-hour fast is, you know, best to be kept on their eating days, best to be kept in that, you know, 5-hour, 6-hour window, or too long of an eating window on the days they're eating really flares their insulin, and that's because of their history. All right, Michelle Lynch says, I have to touch it. Can I stay in autophagy and not lose weight? I need to lose cancer, not weight. Yes, autophagy is not guaranteed weight loss. Autophagy is a stress to your body, and when you stress the system, that's when the cells decide, hey, I need to recycle these cells. I need to disable the ones that are not in functioning for you. They're functioning against you. They're cancerous. And I'm certain that one of the reasons my mom was able to, you know, reverse that cancer, really live without chemotherapy, it's not that she never had chemotherapy again, but the chemotherapy was a million times more effective and did not disable her the way the previous rounds of chemo had. Autophagy, when you first get there, is linked to weight loss. So don't think that, you know, it's much like the anorexic girl that I was talking about. When you use the scale as your major metric, be careful of that. If you're losing fat weight, if you're losing inflammation, which in most of my cancer patients, they have a lot of inflammation, more than they expected, and it's through that loss of weight, which means the scale will go down, that they panic a little bit and say, I don't want to lose weight. And I'm like, don't surrender the weight loss that quickly. Your sustainable weight and then growth of muscle, growth of connective tissue, increasing density of your bones, those are all predictors of how well you will journey through cancer. And without so having autophagy, I mean, I like my cancer patients to hit 20 twice a week, and then stay in the 40 range for a Dr. Boz ratio. That's not easy. That's going to be difficult. It's also where we do a lot of supplementing. They are on MCT supplements. They are on they are putting in the supplements that get their state of ketosis higher than they could get if they were eating. And I mean, the other part about when people are fighting cancer is the timer is so much short. I mean, I'm telling this other person who has IBS, don't fast until you do these several weeks, because the time is a privilege. When they have cancer, that timer is different. And I don't pretend to think that makes it easy. It's actually very hard, but almost all of them have to use supplements, at least for the first season of their, just keeps going off. All right, so let's go. I've been, AVI, Medina. Avi Medina, I think is what, so I had 30, so I want to make sure that I answered that full question. I hope I did. If Angela, if I didn't answer that, text it to Jack so he can read it to me. Ava has been fasting and has bad gout after fasting. Oh boy. So Avi, if you had any idea, I must have paid you to put that question in there. I'm going to move this just a little bit over as the light, there we go. So I have a great gout lecture that I've been working on. And when it comes to who runs this channel, it's actually the people who help me the most with the slides. And I have these great slides that I am going to teach about gout, but they're not done yet. So here's the cliff notes. Spoiler alert, yes. Gout crystals are are already present before you started on that ketogenic diet. When I look at how well a gout crystal can wreak havoc and scare people away from the ketogenic diet, I've pushed my team for the last 2 months to say, we need really good gout slides, because this is hard to explain. So those crystals of gout are already present. They are a waste product of high inflammation and carbohydrates. And when we put you on the ketogenic diet, we know that we are going to begin to reverse that. Unfortunately, you have symptoms whenever we move the crystals. Now, it doesn't mean you always have a gout attack, but if you've got a lot of crystals in those joints and then you go keto, that ketogenic state can mobilize. I mean, it's the right thing. We want those crystals out of your body. And just like a kidney stone, I mean, if God's on your side, you remove one little crystal at a time and you never feel a thing. But I have had more than my share of people complain about their gout flaring whenever they go keto, and then they carb out, they eat, and say, well, at least I feel better. I'm like, that is not the right answer. Getting past the ketogenic state and having or getting past that first wave of keto and staying consistently keto, you will continually remove tiny amounts of that crystal. You will melt the crystal essentially and move it back to your kidney, and you'll pee it out, which is where it should have gone in the first place. Your body couldn't handle that when you had a high insulin state and a higher carb intake because it was in excess. We've all done it, but you have the unfortunate of making gout crystals, and those gout crystals, oh, they hurt like a bugger when they go to come out. Unfortunately, when you can take medication to slow down or reverse the pain, and I think, I do that for patients too, but the real answer is consistently stay keto, because you got to empty the gout crystals, or, I mean, it's a reflection of poor health. It's why uric acid is one of the things that I measure in my patients. And uric acid is about as hard to lower as a hemoglobin A1C. You really have to stay consistent to get that metric lower over time. All right, we're going to do 2 more questions, and then I haven't had very much to drink, but we'll check my numbers again. Again, that's one of my favorite drinks, which is bubble water and Pucker Up. I had a lot of people with pushback this weekend saying, why didn't you put any flavoring in that? And then they went around and tasted other people's ketogenic drinks, and oh my goodness, you can't get 2 people to agree on, is it a good flavor? So the interns did my favorite. I mean, I hate to admit that it tastes this good. I do not drink Red Bull, but sugar-free Red Bull, I had never bought it. But my son, who likes to defy his mother, put pucker up in sugar-free Red Bull, and oh my gosh, was that good. Anyway, they sold it this weekend. As much as it's probably not my favorite drink, man, if you're gonna make a ketogenic drink, it should taste that good. All right, so 2 more questions. We have Karen, and she asks, do you have to worry about muscle loss when fasting? So there's a really great lecture that I give in the 21-day course. And if you bought Consistently Keto, that online course, the very last bonus video that's an hour long goes through this answer with awesome slides showing you about norepinephrine and ketones and growth hormone and the other things that happen inside a 72-hour fast and why that's still what I recommend. The most powerful protection is that when you are fasting, you need to raise your ketones. What I hate to see is people on a much higher carbohydrate state, and then they fast. And it takes them to the end of the 72 hours really to get their ketones to rise enough to protect their muscle. The circulation of ketones is a signaling molecule, which signals the body, to make more ketones. So the liver mitochondria is putting out more ketones when you have ketones in circulation. But the second thing it does is it reaches for fat to be a fat attracted weight loss. So that the first molecule or the first resource to be depleted is fat. It also then protects you from breaking down muscle fibers when you're fasting. But that only happens if you start that fast in a ketogenic state. I mean, the people who do intermittent fasting and say, gee, I lost a little weight, but I stalled. It's because at first that intermittent fasting was allowing them to be in a state of ketosis. And now their body adjusted and they need less carbs, they need a longer period of time, they need a stronger metabolic kick in order to get that resource of ketones circulating in their system. And so when they take 3 days to get ketones in their system, they're sacrificing muscle during those first 2 days of fasting. And I mean, it's the same problem that happens with Ozempic, is that Ozempic still stimulates the production of insulin. And even though they do not want to eat, they lose weight, the sacrifice of muscle is on the front end. They still lose fat, but they lose way more muscle than they should because of what that's doing to insulin. And I think the same thing, I know the same thing happens when people have too high of a carbohydrate state and then they fast for 3 days and they wonder why they look emaciated, they look healthy. They're losing muscle waste, not just fat. So it's a really good question. I hope I explained it really well. If it's not thoroughly explained, those videos at the end of the Consistently Keto, it's my favorite video. It took me an hour and everybody said, don't publish it, it's too long, nobody will sit still for it. And I'm like, I don't care, I love it. It's my favorite. Okay, so Debbie says, Debbie Fontenay, I think, Fontenot? I think the T is silent on the end, maybe not. I've hit my goal weight and need some suggestions for maintenance. My next goal is to reduce body fat by another 5% and increase, it's cutting off, increase, oh, it ended with increase. Let's see. So I need you to tag the rest of it because, okay, there it is. Increase, so that blue one, look at it, the last word is increase. I don't know what that means. Okay, so Angela, tag one with a full sentence at the end. So my next goal is to reduce body fat by another 5% and increase muscle mass, I guess? I'm gonna guess. I'll guess it's muscle mass. All right, so she says, I got my goal weight, I'm at the right weight, now I want less fat. I don't wanna be any skinnier. This is definitely one of those places, if I'm guessing right at the end of that question, this is one of those places where you shouldn't always use the scale to be your measuring stick. You should use the scale as one of several metrics, but not the ultimate metric. And it isn't without, I've had this question many times. That's why I'm like, oh, it's a good question. I know why Angela gets to see all the questions that I get to me. So she's like, we get this one all the time. Answer this. That the muscle mass and the propensity to continue to lose the body fat, it is a great goal. But it means you now have a new set of rules. That we want your mitochondria getting a workout. That workout can be fasting. That's one of the things that I do. It can be put your body in a state of heat or a sauna to the point where you sweat, and that sweat pushes the need for ketones, lowers the glucose, and it gives your mitochondria a workout. And of course, the third way that you can have a stress is to do some sort of exercise that makes your muscles feel a little sore the next day. If you go for a light walk, that's great. It's a good beginning. But if you go for a light walk and say, I'm building muscle, you're lying to yourself. That's like a fake answer for your why. And you need to get naked and say, no, no, no. If you are not a little sore the next day, and I don't mean so sore that you can't get up off the toilet. I mean sore enough that you can feel the muscles you worked out yesterday. It means you ripped the muscles a little and they're sewing back together. That's a good thing. That's how you build muscle mass. I don't want you to be so sore you can't move. But when I ask patients to do activity or exercise enough that they increase the strength of their mitochondria, they often fall short. It is why I put other things on the list where I want you to exercise your mitochondria. One way is to fast long enough where you reach a Dr. Boz ratio of 40 or less. The second one is that you have, you're in the keto continuum where you can hit ketones pretty quickly the next morning. Your morning fasting ketones are not 0.3, they're 0.7, they're 0.8. They're enough where your body's getting a stress. And if you need to push your body to do that a little further, in this case where she says, I don't want the scale to say, but I'd like the fat to be less and maybe the muscle to be higher. I'm like, well, you need to flex the cat, and that means go into a sauna and push the heat, or do a muscle workout that gets you a little sore the next day, or do the 72-hour fast for 8 weeks in a row, which will lose the muscle, or will lose the weight, lose the fat, but not the muscle. All right, so I'm going to test my sugars here. And I'm not sure if I had enough to drink to make a difference, but we'll test the numbers. And there's nothing like the stress of a show to say, I wonder what these are going to be. Okay. I'm a little dirty. So tune in next week because we will have rule number 6, which is my favorite. Okay, so what are my numbers? Get me another brown one. So ketones are 3.7. Yeah, they did go up. And I don't know if my battery died on this or what. Oh, I bet you I just put it in too quickly. So we'll get another brown one here. I got it. Thank you. We're going to have to pick up our trash, or we'll be known as the people on the beach that left behind a whole bunch of plastic. It's just strips for... Okay, so here we go. Okay, counting down. Oh, 51. But I feel great. Probably because of that, though. My ketones are 3.7. All right. We'll see you next week, everybody. And please subscribe to those emails. You're going to miss something. I promise you, you want to be subscribed to the emails. If you sign up twice, it doesn't hurt. That way, at least you get them. See you next week, folks.